Hey, what's up, everyone? My name's Lionel. Hey, I'm your host for LT Productions. You are watching another edition of Byte. This is where I give my opinion over something that I want to in regards to something in depth of a hot topic that's happening. And Jussie Smollett is now a hot topic as of lately because there has been a documentary released called The Truth About Jussie Smollett, just released on Netflix on this past Thursday. And I wanted to dive into it. Some things surprised me, and some things have kind of changed my view on certain things. But we'll get into that. But first, I thank you for joining. I ask that you would like this video. Also, if you will, subscribe if you are new, and leave your comments below. Now let's get into it. Okay, so we know the gist of what happened as far as with Jussie Smollett back in 2019. There was a hate crime reported by Jussie Smollett. It looked like everybody was rallying around him and all that good stuff, and then next thing you know, we're finding out that this is probably a hoax. Somehow, some people that he knew that were on the set of his show, Empire, I did love that show. I love Jussie and all that, was involved into it. He claimed that two white men beat him up and put a noose over him by saying other racist explicities. We'll get into that in just a second. It became just such a whirlwind where people just really turned their backs on Jussie. Then it looked like he was getting off the hook. And then the people of Chicago said, Jussie, you're not going to have us out here looking crazy after all the resources that we took to try to get the person, and it looks like that you're still guilty, so we're going to try you for this. They ended up sentencing him and all that good stuff. We'll get into that in just a minute. But now he's free and did not have to do that time anymore, but he did still have to pay some type of settlement that I did report on. You can go to my playlist called Speak Up, and I do report on that. But yeah, so that's the gist of it. But let's get more in depth and dig into what's going on. We got Jussie, he's in the documentary, which I was shocked. Those brothers are in there. I said, okay, let's do this. January 29th, the incident happened. We see a recollection of him walking out of his hotel room. His creative director, who arrived there earlier that evening, came to his hotel. He ended up he was going to go to the Walgreens. He says that his story's never changed and it won't ever change. He was going to go to a Walgreens that he thought was 24 hours. Since it wasn't, he went across the street to go to Subway's. After getting his Subway's, he was walking from that place, and then next thing you know, he hears someone say, Empire. And then Jussie just ignored it or whatever. Then they said, Empire, FAGGOTTNIGGR. And at that point, he turned around and said, what? Da, 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 da. And they ended up yelling, this is a MAGA country, and they started swinging. He said that he also got a punch in or two. And that was also explained in the interview that he did with Robin Roberts on Good Morning America. He wanted to make it clear that he fought back too. Da, 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 da. We hear from Melissa Staples. She's one of the officers or detectives trying to solve this case. Eddie Johnson, which is the former chief of Chicago PD. Jussie says, when he reported the crime, he wasn't expecting all of this. He reported the crime, and the next thing you know, he's on all the national news and all that, and it just snowballed. I was like, huh? Is this what we're going with now, sir? You're saying it just snowballed like you didn't know, especially in Chicago at that time. There was a lot of injustice and a lot of people upset as to what was happening all across the United States in our country. And you didn't think that this was going to go far. So then when it started making national news, he said that he had to tell his mom what was going on. And he still downplayed it with her. Like, mommy, I got into a fight and all that, but that's all it was. But why? I don't understand it, especially for someone whom you said has done a lot of protests herself. You're trying to just act like you wanted to move on with your life. It was just something that happened and all that good stuff. Ron Emanuel, who is the former mayor, was putting a lot of pressure, says Eddie Johnson. Kim Fox, who is the state's attorney, she did not appear on it, but we see other times where she's been in media having to talk about it. Okay, so where I think I left off is where Chief Eddie Johnson and Kim Fox said that they were under pressure to get this case solved. I know I began to talk about how he felt when the news media started getting a hold of this, even though a lot of people came out in support of him. We had Lee Daniels, we saw different tweets from Viola Davis, Vivica A. Fox, and other people, and we all stood with him. He said that he felt extremely embarrassed, emasculated, and uncomfortable. That the emasculated part. And I said, what? We stood with you. So I don't know if the documentary was cut up and screwed a little bit and edited, and maybe you meant that for later, for when things started changing for you. So anyways, they were looking to see clues and all that, the police department, and they ended up finding out that there were 2 suspects that they saw walking, because how the cameras were, there's a lot of cameras even now in almost every city stationed where they can see overhead as people are walking and all that. They see that there were 2 people, it looked like 2 guys, that got into a cab, and they were able to track it traveling up into North Chicago. Now, where Jussie was saying is still more swanky of, I think they used the word swanky, of Chicago, but they saw it, and then all of a sudden they became undetected. Let me see. Now, what was different, what was odd to them that sparked like, okay, what's actually going on? They backed up footage of what was going on that street, and they saw that 2 gentlemen had a ride share, and then they chose a cab later on to take them back, or take them to the north side of Chicago. Then things began to shift from January 29th, 2019, which was when the accident or the assault happened, and then February 2nd. February 2nd, Jussie was supposed to had some type of event. His agent said cancel it, and they said no. He said no, let's go on with it, you know. After that, Jussie, okay, never mind. It was there when things started changing. Something happened where this is when I think they had saw something about the brothers. I think that's what it was, because they start going a little bit more into details as to the night that they questioned Jussie after he called for police to come. What the officers thought was strange, 2 things. They asked him, you know, so you had this new song the whole time? He said, no, I put it back on so you could see that what was going on. And you're looking like, what? Why would you do that? That don't make any sense. But then they asked to see his phone. He would not give up his phone. First, they were saying in the documentary, you know, he's got a lot of people in his phone, it's private stuff going on. Later on, he admitted, or at least how it was edited, that because of the stuff that he does as far as being involved in different type of drugs, that he's not proud of, but everyone gets on camera and says that, he didn't want the police in that. At that point, they were looking at him strange, like, what is really going on? February 2nd is when they figured out who was riding in this cab that was on that street around that same time. And we find out that it's those brothers. I'm calling them the Ola brothers, but I know that their name is a lot longer. Someone said, oh, the police officer told, I think, a reporter, when Jussie took off the noose, he just folded it up and wrapped it up like it was a prop. The reporter, I guess there is, like, if you want to call it a hotline, but the public informant officer, when the reporter was trying to get information as to what's going on with this Jussie situation. So the informant person or public information officer ended up saying that when they were asking different questions about what Jussie was saying, he said that it's a bunch of bull. And they were like, is this on record? He said, no, not on record. So he asked, you know, what can he actually say to the public? The reporter did. And he said that we're taking it serious, but we're skeptical. So then he was like, after that, The police were feeding him a bunch of stuff to actually say that they just did not seem right with what Jussie was saying. Yeah, so I already talked about the drug use and Jussie not wanting to share the phone. Then from there, we go to the Good Morning America interview that he did with Robin Roberts. They thought it was the best thing. His team thought it was. She is of the LGBT community. She's black and all that good stuff. So what could go wrong? It's used against them at how they are saying it later on. Of course, after the interview, what happened is that they tracked down the brothers. But the very next day after the attack, the brothers went to Nigeria. The same night of this interview with Good Morning America, with Robin Roberts, the brothers were due to come back to Nigeria. The police go straight to the airport and they take them in for questioning. I thought that was odd. I mean, are they under investigation? I mean, did y'all just get warrants and all that? Because all at this point, from how they're telling this story, is that they know that they were on the street and used a cab to get to where they are. So they took them into questioning, and the brothers had nothing to say. And I think that they could only hold them for like 4 hours. Oh, wait, no. They said it was longer hours that they could hold them. It was just like 36 hours or something like that they can hold them if they were brought down for questioning. I don't understand why they didn't get a lawyer at that point. They did get a lawyer later on. But anyways, so the cops really think they got who they're supposed to get. They bring Jussie in to identify whom he thinks were the two people that attacked him. And he has pictures of Ola and his brother. And he said, these aren't them. I told you that they were white. He said, well, because of what we see and all da. Jussie said, no, that's not it. They absolutely have no reason to be a part of this. I don't believe they did this. There's no evidence of it or anything. So they wanted Jussie to sign some type of complaint saying it was actually them, and he says that he refused to do it. Now we are introduced to Gloria Rodriguez, who are eventually the lawyers for the brothers. She got familiar with them through their mother. Their mother was driving a taxi, I believe it was, because I didn't write it down. But anyway, she remembers seeing their brothers. They are these fighters and all that. And she just complimented them and all that stuff. So anyways, she built a rapport with the mom, and then the brothers needed a lawyer. Then I guess they took a look at Robin Roberts' interview. I guess the interview had not aired yet. It wasn't until I guess they were being questioned by them that they actually saw the interview. To me, it felt like the police were going with the angle with the brothers to get them to finally say something by what the interview. And what Jussie did was say, those two people, I believe, are the ones that did what they did to me. According to Jussie, he never ID'd them. The police are basically saying that that's what's going on. Because whomever was on that street at the time, because that was the video footage, really, that's who Jussie said that they did it. At that point, that's when the brothers started to talk and saying, I can't believe he did that. So then they started confessing. Jussie texts Ola. That's the one he's actually friends with. The brother, he wasn't. However, both of them were extras on Empire. And he texts, can I ask you something on the low? He ended up coming to Empire's set and showed them that letter threatening him. Now we saw this letter, which is like pasted and cut it out letters. Like think of on The Bodyguard when they were sending Rachel Marin, Whitney Houston's character, all of these death threats and all that. It was racial and homophobic like of a death threat. Ola says that he took this to Fox and Fox was not taking him serious enough about it. And he ended up saying that I need you to beat me up. And the brothers were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. They're in the documentary too. Like, that's insane or whatever. And Jussie said that we need another person also. So he got his brother involved. They said one day the brother said there was a car that pulled up. I think Jussie rolled down his window and saying that I need you to do da. I was like, oh, okay. Next thing you know, the attack happened. That's when they got the check for $3,500. Now I have my own thoughts about this whole $3,500 because later on, at this point, after the brothers confessed, the police department needed Jussie to come down. At this point, Jussie refused to do all that. They were trying to get the team to tell him where he's at, and they wouldn't say anything. We're seeing old footage of when the brothers went to go pick up the mask and the red hat. Jussie says that his relationship with Fox is good because the police, they were going with that he wasn't happy with his contract with Fox and all that, and he was doing all of these political statements to try to renegotiate all that good stuff. I remember that season. He had a couple more episodes for that season, and the network decided not to use him anymore after he became basically a suspect in his whole attack that was now becoming a hoax. Jussie says that outside of him being a trainer to him, Ola was giving him drugs. It was an herbal steroid that's illegal in the US, and he could get it elsewhere. So he wrote that check for $3,500. Do I think what the brothers are trying to say that they got paid to beat him up for that amount? Nope. I do believe that check was for the drugs. Why would he use a business check? That's why I say that I believe it, but then at the same time, it's like, you did that. Like, why would you mess up the church's money like that? That is not making sense to me. Like, you don't know how, somewhere down the line, some type of payment was given to these gentlemen to do what they did. And it doesn't really make sense after all this time you're trying to hide your drug use that you would make this business check out to them. So I don't know. That part, I was just like, The brothers are saying it was a check for that, and he's saying it was a check for something else. I don't think I believe either. It's for something, but what? I don't know. So he finally went down to the station and all that, and Miss Kim Fox was willing to drop everything if he would forfeit his bond, and they can show that he's a good citizen, and everything would be okay. He'd be let go. So he ended up forfeiting his bond and all that good stuff, and was let go. When he got out, he did this press conference and basically threw the police department under the bus and was saying that he was innocent. At that point, that's when the mayor and the city got upset, and that's when they decided, okay, we're going to put you on trial. They arrested him at that point, all that good stuff. Now we get some more clues. I can't say that I even remember this happening, but cool. Anthony Moore, who's a security officer at the Sheraton Grand, which I think is like right down the street from wherever Jussie, wherever his hotel is and wherever the incident took place. He remembers seeing one guy with a mask on. He says the guy was white. He remembers coming to the door and seeing him coming by, running by, and he put a light up to his face. There's something more that's going to happen. There's a twist that's happening, so stay tuned to that. In regards to, okay, something happened here. Rebecca Bell, who is a neighbor of Jussie's in the same place, she was walking her dog at that time in the morning. That's interesting. She says that she's seen a white guy. And of course, she's trying to mind her business because that's the dude anyways. But she remembers seeing a white rope. It wasn't too long, but it was noticeable or whatever. And Jussie believes between those two things that it really corroborates his story. At this point, I didn't even know this. There were some investigative reporters that were just doing more research in regards to this because none of this was making sense. A woman from London that I couldn't remember seeing her name on there. However, Shelley Stanley, she's a freelance reporter. She started doing a lot of investigation on the police department and also things that just seems to not be factual as to what happened to Jussie or this whole situation. We're finding out that the police department is corrupt. Even the officer was now having complaints against him for other things as far as not giving out all the information and falsifying information and all that good stuff. It's like, oh, okay. I didn't know that, just to let you know. And even Eric Johnson wasn't too long about to retire. He ended up getting caught up asleep. Well, he says he was asleep in a car. And he was falsifying what was actually going on with him. And the police department ended up firing him before he was about to retire. I was like, okay. And you still was willing to do this documentary? Okay. Also, Shelley went to see the security footage of when that security guard saw the white man come by him and was running a little bit. When you see it, as far as what the police had gave at first, 10 seconds are missing. The security guard is walking out. Anthony Moore is walking out to the door, and then it skips as the guy is like right over here, gone, like still running over there. Because Anthony Moore says that he was able to put the flashlight up to his face. Well, we can't see the gentleman. So she ended up being able to get the real footage. Now, I don't think that we saw the guy. However, there's some new images, even outside of just the one angle we see from the outside about to go into that place. There are two gentlemen. They're saying that they're white. I don't see that they're white. I'll just let you know. Anthony Moore, he was questioned and brought in, and they were only showing black guys to him, and he's like, none, I told you guys it was white too. None of these guys match up. And they said, well, see who's that close in pigment wise that you can see that's the person. And he chose the lightest skinned person there because they wanted him to really choose something so well. Ooh. Smollett says that I don't understand how they're trying to say it's the brothers when there is no DNA of them on him. And then Shelley, she ends up getting footage of when the officers were questioning and interrogating the brothers of when they were trying to say something about his charges that he has. We find out that Tola has charges against him for, well, he was charged with attempted murder and then convicted when they got reduced down to aggravated battery. And part of his probation is that he can no longer have firearms. They went to their place and did a raid and found all these firearms. Jussie was saying that he believes that they were using this as leverage. I think even his former lawyer was saying that as a way to get the boys to confess. Just say something, please. But there was footage of the lawyer Gloria Rodriguez talking about getting something expunged. And what was the other word? Did I write it down? I don't know. The other word from expunged or removed or something to that nature. There was a talk about that, but we don't know. Gloria denies that there was any talk of trying to make some type of deal, getting immunity and all that, because still, whatever. Jussie says, I cannot stand what the brothers did to him. And then he ends up saying, well, that they're victims too. Because he's all tying this in that the police department is corrupt and they did all this to him. I already talked about Eddie Johnson getting fired for lying and the brothers went on this type of celebrity type of thing. It was just like clout chasing after being brought into this whole case. That looks suspicious. Like, okay, well, you did all this and then you were going to all these MAGA rallies and stuff. You were featured on Fox News. But they are coming out with a book. They released the title, but it's something to deal with this whole Jussie situation. So they're capitalizing on this whole situation that's happened. My final thoughts, I think that Jussie's lying. I think the brothers are lying. I think the police are lying. I think the police did what was logical and what made sense to them, since there wasn't any real evidence, and just said this happened. It could be true. So technically, that's why I believe Jussie's not in jail. It's just no real way to prove it solidly that this happened. That's my take. Like, I don't remember them talking about the ski mask anymore after the purchase. Did they pick that up? Did they test out DNA there? Because we're just talking about what Jussie said that on him, that they didn't find any DNA. So what's up with that? For real. Jussie, I still think you're lying. Yes, I do. I think there's elements of truth to what the brothers are saying, but at the same time, I just don't believe them totally. I don't think we'll ever know anything. And, Jussie's trying to revitalize his career, his music career. I know he's done some producing stuff on the side. Of course, he still had to make a settlement with the Chicago police. So in some type of fashion, even though he says the organizations that he had to make a donation to, it was of his choice and all that, sir, you're not totally innocent in all this. We have a picture of the dude that y'all say is white. Oh, they tried to do a lineup and say, is this person white or black? And they're like, oh, that's black. Some people said black, and then some people said white. And you're like, oh, okay. So you can't really determine. Anyways, yeah, that's my take on it. I think the documentary gave me a different view, especially if they took out 10 seconds of that video surveillance tape. I was like, why did y'all do all that if you had such a solid case? I don't think that you did Jussie right. However, I don't think that Jussie is not guilty or he's not innocent in this whole situation. That's my thing. At this point, it's been 6 years. Let it go. I don't know how far you're going to go, Jussie. I guess keep going, because that's going to be your stance. I don't know if I wouldn't do any more interviews. Let it be on what you did on this documentary, and that's that. The brothers, I guess I just got to be annoyed that you want to have a book. Why don't you want to go away? Just go away. That's it. Y'all give me your take. Have you watched it? Anything that I said that you want to just elaborate on? Let me know. How do you feel? Is he telling the truth? Jussie is? Who's telling the truth and who's telling the lie? Let me know in the comments. That's all I do have. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate you. Like, comment, and subscribe. And until the next one, peace.